Hello everyone, it's Miss Betts, and welcome back to my channel for yet another Book Talk Tuesday. Tonight's book is Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth, and this book was published in 2017. For those of you that have read the Divergent series, she was the same author for those books, so if you liked them, you'll probably like this book also. Carve the Mark would definitely be considered a fantasy novel. If you like fantasy, then again, you'll like Carve the Mark. It's definitely fantasy based. To give you a short synopsis of the book, it was written in a dual narrative, which Veronica Roth has done before in books that she's written in the past. And for those of you that don't know what a dual narrative is, that is just a book that's written from two people's perspectives. And this is becoming more and more popular, it seems like, in books that I'm reading, where they're written from two or more characters' perspectives. And it's kind of nice when we read that as a reader just because we get a more detailed and visual background from multiple characters' perspectives, which is always a good thing as a reader. You get more information that way. But to give you a short summary, the two main characters or the two main perspectives that we see in this book are Sierra and Akos. And Sierra and Akos are on a planet or a country that Roth has created, and it's not realistic. It's way in the future. So people have powers and some people don't. And the people who don't are very big believers in fate. And fate plays a role because they think that they have a specially designed fate, and that's why they weren't given a power, or people with powers also have a specially designed fate, and that's why they were given powers. And it's kind of just fate is their way for explaining to themselves why this person got a power and this person didn't. And it also kind of sways the decisions that they make in their lives, so that's pretty interesting. But Sierra specifically is on one side of the country, and her brother rules that portion of the country, and he is not a good person. He uses her powers for bad. Has her help him kill people he doesn't like, and that's very traumatizing to her. And then our other character, Akos, is kind of the golden boy. His family is very important to him. He is fated, so he has a very specific fate, and he is very important. So I won't tell you more about that because I want you to read the book to find out. But he is somebody that's very important, and his fate ultimately leads him to Sierra. I will tell you that. And that's how they meet and kind of how the book gets started. So if you want to learn more about Sierra and Akos, I would definitely recommend reading Carve the Mark. I'm going to put it down because it is a very heavy book. I will be honest, the book is about 600 pages long, but don't let the length of it scare you or deter you from reading it. It is a very, very good book, and I believe if you like a book, it's really easy to get into it and start reading it. So don't let the length scare you away from reading Carve the Mark because it is very good. But I will share two connections to the book to kind of inspire you or encourage you to read it. If you've ever read, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the Divergent series by the same author, Veronica Roth, I think you would love Carve the Mark because they have very similar writing styles, both being written by the same author. And also they have similar themes throughout them. They're both really strongly fantasy based, and they both are kind of written in a dystopian society. So that is something that they have in common as well. And then another book series that I think if you've read it, you would definitely like Carve the Mark. If you've read the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard, then I think you would definitely like Carve the Mark as well. So the Red Queen series, for those of you that haven't read it, is also very fantasy and dystopian based. It takes place with two different types of humans, ones that have powers and that are white-blooded, and ones that don't have powers and that are red-blooded. And so it's kind of that similar duology of people who have special powers versus people who don't, because that's something, a duology and a contrast that you experience when you read Carve the Mark, of people on one side of the country that have powers and people on the other side of the country that don't have powers. And that's kind of how the fates play into that as well. But I won't get too far into it. If you read the book, it'll all make sense. So I definitely recommend Carve the Mark. I will mention yet again, it is a longer read, but please don't let that deter you from reading it. It is definitely worth your time and dedication because it is a very, very good read. So tune in next week for our next book, but for tonight, I definitely recommend Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tune in next week for our next Book Talk Tuesday. Have a good night.